Your soulmate was seen crying last night immediately after ending a phone call they were never supposed to receive. The call lasted only 11 minutes, but by the time it ended, your soulmate was sitting on the edge of their bed with one hand covering their mouth, trying so hard not to make a sound that the person standing outside the half-open door initially thought something terrible had happened. Their phone was still pressed against their ear even though the line had already gone silent. Then your soulmate lowered it slowly, stared at a photograph on the screen, and whispered one final word before completely breaking down. Your name. But the fact that they said your name is not the real mystery. The real mystery is who was on the other end of that call. Because your soulmate had not spoken to this person in years. And the person calling them had information about you that your soulmate believed nobody else knew. The call came late enough that your soulmate nearly ignored it. The number was unfamiliar. They watched it ring once, disappear, then ring again less than 30 seconds later. Your soulmate has apparently been receiving unusual calls lately, but most were easy to dismiss. This one felt different because immediately after the second missed call, a message appeared. Please answer. This is about them. No name. Just them. Your soulmate knew instantly who it meant. You. That alone frightened them. For a long time your soulmate has tried to convince themselves that the safest way to carry whatever remains between you is quietly. They stopped asking people about you as openly as they once did. They became more careful about admitting when a memory bothered them. If someone mentioned your name, they learned how to keep their expression controlled. They could make it seem as though time had turned you into an ordinary part of their history. It had not. The person who called last night knew that. Your soulmate answered. They did not say hello. They said, "Who is this?" The voice on the other end replied with a name your soulmate had not expected to hear again. Someone connected to a period of your life your soulmate knows almost nothing about. Perhaps an old friend. Perhaps someone who was close to you during the months after everything between you became quiet. Someone your soulmate once assumed disliked them. The person did not waste time. I need to tell you something about them. Your soulmate sat down. What happened? The caller immediately corrected them. Nothing happened tonight. Then, but something happened a long time ago that I think you should know now. Your soulmate's entire body changed. For years, they have lived with gaps in your story. They know what happened while they were present. They know the arguments. The messages. The silence. The moments when you tried to understand them. What they do not know is what happened after you stopped letting them see your pain. That part of your life became inaccessible. And inaccessible things often become larger inside the imagination. Your soulmate asked, "Are they okay?" The caller was quiet for a moment. They are now. Those 3 words hurt more than if the person had simply said yes. They are now. Which meant there had been a time when you were not. Your soulmate looked toward the floor. The caller continued. I'm not calling to make you feel guilty. Your soulmate almost laughed bitterly. Then why are you calling? Because I found something. Your soulmate became still. What? The caller said they had been cleaning out an old drawer earlier that day when they found an envelope with your handwriting on it. Not addressed to them. Addressed to your soulmate. But never sent. Your soulmate stopped breathing normally. A letter? Yes. When? The caller gave them the date. Your soulmate knew it immediately. It was from one of the final periods when the connection between you was still alive enough to hurt but too uncertain to feel safe. Your soulmate asked the obvious question. Did you read it? No, that surprised them. The caller continued, but I know what was happening when they wrote it. Your soulmate closed their eyes. There had been a version of you who still wrote things you never sent. A version they never met. A version that continued speaking to them privately even after your actual conversations became shorter. Your soulmate whispered, "Why didn't they send it?" The caller answered, "Because they changed their mind." Why? Silence. Then, because something happened that night. That was the first real hook inside the call. Your soulmate leaned forward. What happened? The caller told them that on the night you wrote that letter, you had been planning to contact your soulmate one final time. Not casually. Not to ask whether they missed you. You had apparently reached a point where you needed one clear answer. You told this person, "I can survive a no. I don't think I can survive another maybe." Your soulmate covered their face. Because they remember that period. They remember receiving hints that you were becoming tired. They remember knowing you needed clarity. And they remember avoiding the conversation because they were terrified that clarity would force them to make a decision. The caller said you wrote the letter first because writing felt safer. You explained everything. What you loved. What had hurt. What you still hoped might be possible. And one question, do you actually want a life with me, or do you only want to know I would have chosen one with you? Your soulmate stopped the caller. Wait. The person went quiet. Your soulmate repeated the line slowly. They had never heard it. Yet something about it sounded exactly like you. Because that was the hidden contradiction inside your connection. Your soulmate wanted to know you would choose them. But they repeatedly delayed choosing you. Your love reassured them. Your availability reassured them. Even your pain sometimes reassured them because pain meant the bond still mattered. But you eventually began questioning whether they wanted the relationship itself or simply emotional proof that they could have had it. The caller said you planned to send the letter that night. You did not. Because before you could, someone told you something about your soulmate. Your soulmate immediately asked, "What?" The caller hesitated. This was where the story became dangerous. Someone close to your soulmate had spoken to someone close to you. And what reached you was simple: they're moving on. You should too. Your soulmate stood up. What? The caller repeated it. Your soulmate began pacing. Who said that? The caller named the person. Your soulmate went silent. Because the name was familiar. Someone whose opinion had influenced your relationship before. Someone who believed they were protecting your soulmate. Someone who had repeatedly told them the connection was becoming too complicated. Your soulmate said, "They never told me they spoke to them." The caller responded, "I know." Suddenly, something your soulmate had blamed on timing became more complicated. You had written a letter. You were preparing to ask for clarity. Then somebody told you your soulmate had already chosen to move on. So you did not send it. Your soulmate whispered, "That wasn't true." The caller said nothing. Your soulmate repeated it more forcefully. That wasn't true. They were not moving on. Perhaps they were pretending to. Perhaps they had told family they needed to leave the connection alone. But inside themselves, they were still thinking about you constantly. They had not chosen another future. They had chosen avoidance. From your side, however, the distinction did not exist. You heard that they were moving on. So you stopped asking. Your soulmate sat back down. Their eyes were already filling. But this was still only the first reveal. The caller said, "There's something else." Your soulmate almost did not want to hear it. What? After they decided not to send the letter, they asked me to destroy it. Your soulmate looked toward the phone. But you didn't. No, why? The caller answered, "Because they were crying when they said it." That sentence broke through your soulmate's defenses. The person explained that you did not cry dramatically. You were calm for most of the conversation. Too calm. Then you said, "If they really moved on, I don't want this letter becoming something they receive later and mistake for me begging." You folded it. Handed it over. Then added, "But don't let me ask for it back tonight." The caller put it in a drawer. Days passed. Then weeks. You never asked for it. Eventually the caller forgot it existed. Until yesterday. Your soulmate asked whether the envelope was still sealed. Yes. They swallowed. Don't open it. I wasn't planning to. Then the caller said something unexpected. I don't think you understand why I called. Your soulmate wiped their face. You found the letter. No, a pause. I found something inside the drawer underneath it. What? A photograph. Your soulmate became still. Not a photograph of you and them. A photograph of your soulmate alone. One they recognized immediately when the caller described it. It had been taken years earlier at a gathering. You were there. Your soulmate had no idea you ever kept a copy. The caller said there was writing on the back. Your soulmate whispered, "What does it say?" The person read it. This is the face they make when they're trying not to show they're scared. Your soulmate covered their mouth. Because you had seen them. That was always part of what frightened them about you. You noticed the difference between anger and fear. Between distance and overwhelm. Between, "I don't care," and, "I care too much and don't know what to do." Your soulmate had spent years believing you misunderstood them. That photograph suggested you understood more than they ever admitted. Then the caller said, "There's a date on it." The date was from before your worst arguments. Before the relationship became defined by uncertainty. Which meant you had noticed their fear long before your soulmate realized it was controlling them. The caller asked, "Do you want to know what they said when they gave me that photograph?" Your soulmate whispered yes. You had said, "I don't think they're cruel." A pause. "I think they're scared." Your soulmate's shoulders dropped. Then, "But being scared doesn't mean they're allowed to keep making me scared too." That line hit harder than everything else. Because it contained compassion without excuse. You understood your soulmate's fear. You simply could not keep living inside its consequences. Your soulmate had spent years telling themselves you walked away because you misunderstood them. Now they were discovering you may have understood them perfectly. Perhaps that was why you had to leave. Your soulmate began crying. The caller let them. Then asked, "Do you know what they did after that?" What? They defended you. Your soulmate looked confused. To who? To me. The caller admitted they had been angry at your soulmate. They believed your soulmate was playing with your feelings. They told you to stop protecting someone who clearly did not know what they wanted. You became upset. Not because the caller criticized your soulmate. Because they reduced them to their worst behavior. You said, "They hurt me." That doesn't mean you get to turn them into someone they aren't. Your soulmate whispered, "They said that?" Yes. Even after deciding not to send the letter. Even after believing your soulmate was moving on. Even while trying to force yourself to let go. You still refuse to let another person destroy their character just because you were hurting. That is where your soulmate started crying hard enough that someone outside their room heard them. But the phone call had not reached the midpoint yet. The caller said, "I need to ask you something." Your soulmate tried to control their breathing. What? Were you really moving on? No, immediate. No hesitation. Then what were you doing? Your soulmate stayed silent. The caller waited. Finally, waiting. For what? I don't know. That answer was the truth. Your soulmate was waiting for courage. For circumstances to change. For somebody to tell them what the right decision was. For you to somehow remain emotionally available while they figured themselves out. The caller responded, they were waiting too. Your soulmate closed their eyes. But they eventually stopped. Yes. Why? Because they found out something else. That reopened the story. Your soulmate asked, "What?" The caller explained that several months after you abandoned the letter, somebody approached you. Another person. Not necessarily a grand love story. But someone clear. Someone who wanted to know you. Your soulmate's face changed. The caller noticed even through silence. Don't do that. Do what? Turn this into jealousy. That isn't the important part. Your soulmate swallowed. What happened? You apparently allowed yourself to get closer to this person for a short period. Then one evening they asked you why a part of you still seemed emotionally somewhere else. You did not lie. You admitted that someone from your past still mattered. The person asked whether you were waiting for that person. Your answer changed everything. No. Not anymore. Your soulmate's tears returned. The caller said, "That was the first time I heard them say it. Not, I don't love them. Not, I hate them. Not, it meant nothing. Just, I'm not waiting anymore." Your soulmate understood the difference. Love had not necessarily ended. Waiting had. And that may have been the moment your entire connection changed without your soulmate knowing it. The caller told them that after that conversation, you became quieter about your soulmate. You stopped asking for updates. You stopped reacting when their name appeared. You stopped searching for explanations from other people. Not because every feeling disappeared. Because you had decided your life could no longer require information from someone who was not present in it. Your soulmate whispered, "Did they end up with that person?" The caller said, "That isn't why I called." Your soulmate almost laughed. The answer remained hidden. And that uncertainty forced them back to the real issue. The caller continued, "I called because I found the letter, and I realized you probably never knew how close they came to asking you one last time." Your soulmate looked down. They shouldn't have had to ask one last time. The caller went quiet. That answer surprised them. Your soulmate continued, "I knew what they wanted." Then why didn't you give them an answer? "I wanted to know they would stay before I risked saying I wanted them to." There it was. The private confession. Your soulmate had finally said it aloud. They wanted your certainty first. The caller said, "So you wanted them to be vulnerable enough for both of you." Your soulmate did not defend themselves. No, then corrected, "Yes." That honesty mattered. For the first time, they were no longer decorating fear with circumstances. And then the caller revealed the second major secret. The envelope did not contain only the letter. There was something attached to it. A second sealed page. Your soulmate asked, "What?" The caller said they could see an outline through the paper. Something folded separately. Written on the front, "Only open this if they ever come back honestly." Your soulmate stopped breathing. The caller had not opened it. Neither had you. Perhaps you wrote it to your future self. Perhaps it was something you wanted your soulmate to read only if they returned under different circumstances. Nobody knew. Your soulmate stared at the floor. "Why are you telling me this?" The caller answered, "Because yesterday they contacted me." Your soulmate froze. You had contacted this person yesterday. For the first time in a long time. You asked one question. "Do you still have that old envelope?" Your soulmate stood up. "What?" The caller repeated it. You remembered the letter. After all these years. The caller asked why. You said, "I don't know." I dreamed about it. Perhaps that sounds strange. Perhaps it was simply memory. But something made you think about the letter again. Then you said, "Don't send it." I just wanted to know if it still existed. Your soulmate's heart was beating so hard they could hear it. The caller said, "That's why I called you." Your soulmate asked, "Did they say anything about me?" The caller hesitated. "Yes." "What?" You had asked, "Are they okay?" The same question. Again. Not, "Do they miss me?" Not, "Are they with somebody?" Not, "Did they regret losing me?" Are they okay? Your soulmate broke. The caller continued, "I told them I thought you were." Your soulmate whispered, "I'm not." Then silence. And the caller asked the question that finally caused your soulmate to lose control completely. "Do you want me to tell them that?" Your soulmate looked toward the photograph on their phone. The picture was of you. Taken during a moment when your soulmate remembered you looking happier than you had near the end. Their thumb moved across your face on the screen. For years they had imagined the perfect message. A dramatic confession. An explanation. Something beautiful enough to compensate for every quiet year. Suddenly none of it mattered. The caller asked again, "Do you want me to tell them you're not okay?" Your soulmate said, "No, why?" "Because I don't want their compassion to be the thing that brings them back." The caller went quiet. That sentence sounded familiar. Because years earlier, you had refused to use your pain to force their return. Now your soulmate was finally refusing to use theirs. Then the caller asked, "What do you want me to tell them?" Your soulmate thought for a long time. Finally, "Nothing." Nothing? If they want to know something about me, I need to tell them. That was new. No intermediaries. No hidden reports. No emotional messages carried by friends. Your soulmate understood that too much of your history had happened around each other rather than between each other. Then the caller said, "Good." Your soulmate almost laughed. "Good?" "Yes. Because there's something they said yesterday that I wasn't going to tell you unless you answered that way." Your soulmate became completely still. "What did they say?" The caller repeated your words carefully. You had said, "If they ever speak to me again, I don't need them to explain why they loved me. I need them to tell me why they kept choosing fear after they knew what it was costing us." Your soulmate began crying again. Because you still understood the real question. Love had never been the mystery. Choice was. The caller waited. Your soulmate tried to speak. No words came. Eventually they whispered, "I know why now." The caller asked, "Why?" Your soulmate looked at your photograph. "Because if I chose them and it failed, would have had nobody left to blame." Silence. There it was. Family could be blamed while they hesitated. Timing could be blamed. Distance could be blamed. Fear could be blamed. But if your soulmate chose you openly and the relationship still failed, they would have to live with a decision that was fully theirs. So they remained in uncertainty. And ironically created the very loss they were trying to avoid. The caller said, "Maybe that's what they needed you to understand." Your soulmate nodded even though nobody could see them. Then something happened. The caller said, "I'm going to hang up." Your soulmate panicked slightly. "Wait. What? Don't throw the letter away." "I won't. And don't send it to me." The caller sounded surprised. "Why?" Your soulmate answered, "Because it was written to the person I was then." Another silence. "If they ever want me to know what they wrote, I want them to decide that now." That may have been the biggest change of the entire call. Years ago your soulmate would have wanted the letter immediately. Proof. Evidence of your love. Something they could read alone and use to reassure themselves that they still mattered. Now they understood that old love is not automatic permission to enter your private past. The caller said, "You've changed." Your soulmate gave a sad laugh. "Maybe. Then, maybe just late." The caller did not comfort them. Instead, "Then don't be late again." Your soulmate's face changed. They looked at your name in their phone. The contact was still there. Never deleted. The caller said goodbye. Your soulmate remained on the line for another second. And this is the moment someone outside the room witnessed. Your soulmate lowered the phone. Tears running down their face. They stared at your photograph. And whispered your name. Not because your name was the final word spoken during the conversation. Because it was the first word of the decision forming afterward. The person who saw them crying assumed the call had brought terrible news. In a way, it had. Your soulmate discovered there was a night you were prepared to ask them for one final answer. They discovered another person's interference helped convince you they had already moved on. They discovered you defended them even while letting them go. They discovered the exact moment you stopped waiting. They discovered an unopened letter still exists. And most importantly, they discovered that yesterday, after all this time, you remembered that letter too. But this is where the title has one final hidden layer. Your soulmate did not immediately call you after hanging up. They started typing. The first message was long. Deleted. The second said, "I heard about the letter." Deleted immediately. That would make the conversation about the past. They tried again. "I know there are things we never got to say." Deleted. Too vague. Then your soulmate stared at the question you had asked through the caller. Why did they keep choosing fear after they knew what it was costing both of you? Your soulmate finally typed, "I think I finally know the answer to the question you were asking me long before I was brave enough to hear it." They stopped. Added, "I don't know what you feel now, and I'm not going to ask anyone else." Their hands shook. Then, "If you ever want to hear my answer, I want to give it to you directly." Your soulmate did not press send. Not immediately. Because now they understand that one message could reopen something you worked very hard to close. They are thinking about your peace. your current life, who you became, and whether speaking now would be courage or simply another attempt to reduce their own regret. But unlike the night they almost came back and turned around, they are not telling themselves silence is automatically noble. They know silence can be fear pretending to be kindness. So they are asking a new question: can I tell the truth without demanding an outcome? That is the test. And somewhere nearby is a person who saw your soulmate crying last night and still does not understand why your name was the final thing they whispered. Now you do. It was not because the caller told them you were coming back. They did not. It was not because you confessed that you still love them. You did not. It was not because some mystical guarantee appeared saying both of you are destined to reunite. Nothing was guaranteed. Your name came out because, after years of asking everyone else what the connection meant, your soulmate finally realized there is only one person left they should be speaking to. You. And there is one final thing your soulmate does not know. The caller never told them what was written on the back of the envelope you asked about yesterday. A sentence you added much later than the original letter. Different ink. Different date. Only 7 words: if they come honestly, let me listen. Your soulmate has not seen that line. Not yet. The caller kept one promise to you. They did not reveal everything. Which means your soulmate is preparing to approach you without knowing there may still be a door. Exactly as it should be. No guarantee. No proof. No certainty first. Only truth. And tonight, the message remains on their screen. Your name at the top. Their thumb hovering beneath the words. For years your soulmate believed the frightening part would be telling you they still loved you. They were wrong. You probably already knew that. The frightening part is finally saying, I know why I lost you. And then allowing you to decide what that truth means now. That is why your soulmate cried after that private phone call. That is why the final word anyone heard them say was your name. And if they finally press send, the next chapter will not begin with them asking whether you still belong to the past. It will begin with a much more dangerous question: are you willing to meet the person who finally understands why you had to stop waiting?